For the Truman Show Module B, our assessment task is as follows. You'll notice up here it says it's task number 2 of 4. We've done one, that was the Past the Shallows podcast. We have this essay for the Truman Show. It's worth 25%. Next term we have a craft of writing task, and then in term 3 we have the trial. They're the 4 tasks that we do. So this one is an in-class essay, and let's just have a scroll down here to the task description. If I just move that up a bit. The first thing we've got here, of course this is in assessment week, and my understanding is that you'll be doing it in the hall, but you'll be notified of that. The task description, here's our little rubric that tells us that we'll be assessed on how well you demonstrate your understanding of a text's distinctive qualities and how these shape meaning. So this here is the important part of that. And obviously the distinctive qualities, we're talking about the medium of film, and we talk about it as film, not as a movie. So that's really important. And within the film, the distinctive qualities obviously will relate to ideas, context, and construction. So what are the ideas presented in the film? How do they reflect the context of the time in which it was created? But really, we're talking about modern society, so any time around now. And then how's the film constructed using filmic techniques, but also other literary techniques as well. Okay, the other thing that the distinctive qualities is talking about is this notion of textual integrity. And textual integrity really means how is it that all of the components that go in to make this film, how do they all work together? How do they communicate with one another to create an effective meaning, a meaning for the viewing public? The second point that it says we're being assessed on is the ability to organise, develop and express ideas using language appropriate to audience, purpose and form. Okay, and so that's talking about the form. It's a formal essay, and basically we want to use the appropriate structure and language so that we're creating a strong thesis that is evident throughout the whole essay, and that what you're doing is you're sustaining your thesis and your ideas with relevant examples from the film. Okay, so what we're going to do is this is the practice question, and this practice question you're allowed to write a full essay for. It says down here you can complete one full essay that addresses this question, and it's due by the beginning of your lesson, Friday the 8th of March. So that's we're in week 5 now, so it's not this Friday but next Friday. And basically you'll be provided with feedback from that. Obviously we'll look at your structure, we'll look at your ideas, talk to you about how you're expressing yourself. And the good thing is that if you seek feedback and you polish up this practice essay, a lot of what you're saying you'll be able to transfer into the real question. Okay, and when you do submit that on Friday the 8th of March, it says down here, once all those are in, we will then give you the actual question for the assessment task during that lesson, and then you'll have the week or so to prepare for that. Okay, let's go back up to the question. Through the medium of film, the Truman Show presents ideas that are thought-provoking. Discuss this statement, making detailed reference to your prescribed text. Now, the first thing I'll start with is this word discuss. That does not mean that you need to write a discussion where you present arguments for and against. A discussion can be one side or the other, but really it's just saying, in the simple sense of the matter, tell us your opinion on the statement above. Okay, you're going to raise ideas and you're going to support them with evidence. So let's have a look at the components of this question. Through the medium of film, that's the first thing, I suppose, that we're talking about film as an art form and all the things that's constructed through that. and it is a film. It's not a movie. Okay, so through the medium of film, The Truman Show presents ideas that are thought-provoking. Now, this bit here is obviously the really important part. It's presenting ideas that are thought-provoking. We're actually going to leave this part of the question until we talk about the nitty-gritty of it in class. So what we'll do is we'll devote next lesson to going through that and looking at how we can structure our ideas and what sort of things we can talk about and how we can develop our argument. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Okay, and then once you've obviously come up with a thesis built around this idea of ideas that are thought-provoking, then you're going to support your argument using detailed reference from the film. Okay, and we'll look at the marking criteria and see how that unfolds and what it would look like. So this marking criteria is from the last year's HSC paper. We thought that was a good way to go. And if we just start up the top and look at what you're going to be marked on. So for the first dot point is looking at this idea that the student, you, effectively discusses the statement in relation to their prescribed text. So obviously you're going to have to answer questions like, what is thought-provoking in the film? And who's it thought-provoking to? To whom is it thought-provoking? Okay, what does it do, or how does it challenge you as the viewer? What does it challenge you to think about? So you're going to be exploring those type of things. The second point here says that the student presents an effective response based on relevant, detailed textual knowledge. Okay, so when we're talking about that, we want to be able to talk about you know, obviously provide examples from the film, but what we want to be also be able to do is show our understanding of the genre, that satire and dystopian fiction is the thing that's been used to create that. This is annoying me a bit, so I'll move it over. Okay, and then thirdly, it says that you organise, develop and present an effective response using language appropriate to audience, purpose and film. So obviously, once again, that's the essay format. Now, like the last task, we've got these three words over here that will differentiate between an A response, a B response, and a C response, etc. So let's look at the three. First of all, it says sophisticated. So we're talking there about the ideas that you're presenting. So you're addressing the question and you've got a sophisticated argument. And the way that you're going to do that, I think the big discriminator between an A and a B text response will be an A response will actually step outside the text. It will step outside of just talking about the Truman Show and what's happening to Truman and how his image is created within the film using film techniques, etc. And what it will do, an A response will focus on how Peter Weir, the director, has constructed a message through the medium of film. Okay. And that's where we're going to be looking at ideas of looking through a lens of, you know, that the film is a satire and that it's dystopian fiction, and through this the message of the film is constructed. So that's what sophisticated is on about. And you can see the difference between sophisticated and thoughtful. So a thoughtful response will have some elements of a sophisticated argument, but it will probably drift in and out of, you know, talking about what's going on inside the text, having that drive its argument rather than having a bigger statement that is clearly developed throughout. The next point we've got there, the next word, the descriptor, is integrated. And what we're talking about there is the ability to present an integrated argument so that the ideas sort of build on each other. So you'll have one overarching idea, and possibly it might be through this idea of satire or dystopian fiction. And that's the means by which you know, the audience is challenged to think about something, and obviously then it's the ideas that you develop within that and how well they run together, how well they flow, and so that there will be some sort of sense of you're building it, starting an argument, and it's building throughout the essay. You'll see in the second one that it's effective. So the argument will be effective, but it might just not have the same fluency and sophistication as the A response. It may dip in and out of that as well. Okay, and then the third descriptor here is polished. And when we're talking about polished, we're talking about this idea of fluency again, that the ideas in your essay, they flow together, and that the essay is driven by ideas and that they're supported with relevant examples that show your understanding of how these ideas have been constructed. So notice I'm talking about it's the ideas first and that the construction comes after that, so that you know you're presenting an argument built around your thesis, and then from those points you're supporting them with examples from the text where you're able to, you know, in a nicely expressed and fluent manner, you're able to present that. And then when we come down to here, that we've used the word engaging. It is you know, you're presenting an interesting argument, and it's somewhat original, and that it is tapping into that thought-provoking nature of the film. But once again, it's probably not to the same extent. And then I suppose if we want to go back up to here, because the polished ties in with this idea of or this point here. What we want to do is through the essays, show how your point is evidence in a scene and use the meta language of film to prove your point. So for example, you might have made a point and you want to support it by talking about the representation of Christoph as a god. And so you start talking about religious symbolism. So symbolism is the meta language that you're using. And then you would talk and give examples of maybe in the final scene when Christoph is in the lunar room, that we hear Christoph's voice like it's the booming voice from above from the lunar room. That Christoph constructs this creates the lightning strikes, and that's a visual representation of his wrath. We might talk about the symbolism of his glasses, which highlight his omnipotence. He thinks he knows all, you know, he's the all-knowing God, and that his image is constructed that way. And you could talk about the beret, the costume that he wears that suggests he is the creator, and we're tapping into our knowledge of that. Anyway, that's essentially the task that's been set. And what we'll do in the coming few lessons is we'll support you in your attempt to structure your ideas into a nice probably introduction, 3 body paragraphs, 2 or 3 body paragraphs, and then a conclusion.